Hi everybody, I'm Michael and I'm happy to have one of my longtime students, Caitlin, here today to go over some yoga asanas with you today. But before we even get into the poses, one thing that's cool about Caitlin is that she's been my student for 10 years? Yeah, 10 years at this point, which is good to see someone grow and progress over that span of time. And one thing I always would ask Caitlin from day one is, you should be a yoga teacher, be a yoga teacher. And she would always say, no, I'm not ready yet, even up until today. No, I'm not ready yet. And that's with 10 years of practice. And she has a really strong, consistent practice, which we'll see once we get into the movements. But something to keep in mind for you new yoga teachers or those looking to become a yoga teacher is you want to have, let's say, a strong, long foundation for your own practice before you embark upon becoming a yoga teacher, just so you're really fluent and confident with what you're teaching. And the analogy for that is a kid who graduates from kindergarten. They don't get out of kindergarten and say, yeah, I'm going to go out and I'm going to teach kindergarten now. No, they go through grammar school, high school, college, get their master's degree, and then maybe they can go back and teach kindergarten. So just keep that in mind as you embark upon your yoga teaching career. So enough of that. I think we should probably get into the poses now. Yes. All right, so today we are going over the cobra pose, or bhujangasana, if you like those fancy names. So to come into the cobra pose, we started off in the plank pose, or the push-up position. And we covered that in a previous video if you're unfamiliar with that, but it's pretty simple. It's a straight line from your shoulders to your hips, to your knees, to your ankles. Now as you exhale, you would simply bend your elbows and lower straight down to the ground. And then once you make it down on the ground, we'll start from the bottom up. You would let the toes go. So the tops of the feet are pressing into the floor. The knees and the thighs, they would squeeze together. Now notice how Caitlin's thighs and hips are on the floor. Now the hands press into the floor and then her ribs lift off the floor. One long spine, hence the name the cobra pose. Now as the belly pulls forward, the shoulders roll back. Notice how the elbows squeeze into the ribs. So by doing that, you're actually opening your heart up, which I think was the initial goal of yoga. And at the same time, all her hands are pressing into the floor completely, so there's no gaps with her hands in the yoga mat. So that's the cobra pose, pretty simple pose. Now there is another variation or a pose that looks very similar to the cobra, which is called the upward facing dog pose. So you'll see the difference now. How that pose works, the tops of the feet would press into the floor, then the knees and the thighs would lift off the floor. Now notice, there's still no pressure in Caitlin's lower back, because when you put pressure in the lower back, that's usually where most lower back injuries occur. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. But Caitlin's very flexible, so she's not putting any pressure in her lower back. She's still opening her shoulders. So it's really just a different option of the pose, but it's a completely different pose from the cobra pose, as you see. Now we've got one more variation of the cobra pose, which is kind of cool. It reminds me of when I was a kid, and some folks can do this. So the knees and the thighs would go to the floor. The shoulders would roll back a little bit, and then the knees would bend. And then you would try to drop your head back to your toes. Now Caitlin's spine's a little tight today because she missed yoga class yesterday, but we won't concern ourselves with that. But notice the beautiful arch in her spine. So she's really opening up her spine, getting her toes in, getting every part of her anatomy in. So all we'll do from here, we'll take one more big inhalation. And then on an exhale, the chin would touch the yoga mat. Back up into the plank pose, then into the downward facing dog pose. How about knees to the floor? Butt to the heels and crawl on up. All right, did it work for you?
Worked.
Okay, it worked for her. Maybe it'll work for you too. So come in for a class, try the cobra pose, or there's more videos online at yogaabove.com. Namaste.